And now, after years of planning, sweating, and going broke, here is the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
I'll alert the media.
Why they would give this man a podcast is anyone's guess.
Then there is what could only be a bizarre coincidence or something else.
Welcome to the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
Country music and fine moonshine. Finally, a podcast that lets it all hang out.
Let's level with America.
Got your boots? Ready for some whiskey?
These boots are made for walking.
One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you.
And now, the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
Hey everyone, Jim here, Boots and Whiskey Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We had a little faux pas on our socials. We announced that the Clay Street unit was going to be here today. That I screwed up the dates. That is next Monday. They will be on the show. The following Monday is the Band of Heathens, but today we have Ladybird on the show. Ladybird is a great band. They're doing some cool things, got a great sound. We hope you enjoy the show. I don't know really what much to say. We got a few things coming up hopefully this week. Hopefully Treaty Oak Revival on Thursday, and then Saturday we'll be seeing the Turnpike Troubadours in Boston, so keep an eye out for all that stuff. We do have some reviews that should be coming out. I know I say that all the time, right? All the time I say reviews. They never fucking come. But yeah, so here we are. It is Monday. Thank you for being here. I'm a little flustered because I looked at everything and I was like, shit, the dates are all wrong. And, you know, it's tough being a one-man band, you know? So enjoy the show, sit back, relax, and we'll see you on the flip side. Cheers, guys.
That's perfect, man.
It's Monday. It's early.
Yeah.
Well, So, like I said, this is about you. I want you to kind of tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing, and I will throw in some random ridiculous shit in between.
All right. Well, yeah. Like I said, my name is Pete. I play in a band called Ladybird, and the easiest way to describe, probably easier maybe for your listeners than it is to my aunts or uncles, but like we tried to kind of emulate that late 90s early 2000s alt country sound, like you hear from Drive-By Truckers or Sunvolt or Old 97s or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what we started, and it kind of turned into something all its own, which is good, I think. We're really happy with what it sounds like now, and that we're not just like a Drive-By Truckers cover band. So
Right. Now, when you guys started playing, were you doing covers or were you always doing original tunes?
No, it was always originals. I wrote four or a few songs, and then recorded 4 songs for the first EP, and then got the guys together and so started there, and now we have a nice little catalog,
Yeah. And you, so where does the name come from?
Where do you think it comes from?
I have some thoughts, but I'm probably wrong.
Go ahead. Let's see. I'm curious.
Every time I hear Ladybird, I think of Ladybird Johnson.
Okay, so you're indirectly correct.
Okay.
So it's actually I have a sticker here. It's King of the Hill. Hank Hill's dog's name is Ladybird.
Okay.
Which, knowing King of the Hill and all the Texas pride and everything, I'm sure is named after Ladybird Johnson. But
yeah,
I'm just glad you didn't think we were named after the Timothy Chalamet movie, because you'd be surprised how many people are like, oh, like you're named after the coming of age mother-daughter movie,
I didn't even know that was a movie, so I guess
Yeah,
I'm off the reservation.
Oh, you're good.
So
Yeah.
how did that become the name? Because I love how names and things get named. Like, that's so fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's kind of a goofy story. I wanted to name it, and I wrote these songs or whatever. Sorry. I had this grand idea to call the band Lakefront Depot, which is the name of this old train station here in Milwaukee that's since been demolished. And Sam Shimborski, who also writes some of the songs, and he was kind of the first guy that I recruited to be in the band. He was like, it can't be that. It can't be that. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And it was his idea to just do Ladybird, because we were both like, just after COVID, we had like plowed through, all the King of the Hill stuff, and he was like, just make it simple. And I conceded, and I'm happy I did, because I don't know, Lakefront Depot is just too wordy, too dramatic.
Yeah. Now, so being from Wisconsin, how do you get a sound like yours? Like, how does it come to be where you do sound like you could be from Texas?
I don't know where to. So I grew up in Frederick, Maryland, which is like, the best way I describe it is it's the West Virginia side of Maryland.
Yeah.
When you tell people from Wisconsin that you're from Maryland, they just they take Maine and Massachusetts and Maryland, and they clump it into one northeastern state, and they picture you on a boat eating lobster, and like, which is fine. But but I think that a little bit, maybe, where I'm from or where I grew up. I've been here for like 10 years, but I think that has a little bit of influence on maybe the sound. But I also think it's just, you look at bands like Uncle Tupelo, or John Prine, same thing. Like, John Prine spent most of his life in Chicago, and Uncle
Right.
Tupelo's from Chicago. And like, I think especially now we're kind of in this stage where you become what your influences are. And I think it's like, we all listen to these songs and these records that we love, and are trying to be a little bit intentional about, like, we do love these records, and we want to make music that sounds like this. And so I think hopefully we're able to do that in a way that seems authentic. And it's a long-winded answer.
No. I mean, from what you guys have put out and the sound that you have, like, it's a breath of fresh air, right? Where it's not the same shit that everybody else is doing, but it's familiar.
Cool. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, when we started the band, I was like, I did kind of want to do like a more like classic country western type thing, which is funny because the songs I wrote weren't suited for that anyway. But I was just like, I really love that, and I think there's just so much of that right now, and country music is kind of like having this kind of like mainstream thing, which has happened before.
Yeah.
But because of that, I think you do see a lot of similar stuff, and a lot of it's great. But I'm definitely like thankful that we've landed on this kind of like louder, twangier, and weave in kind of some of these like punk influences that we have, which I'm sure probably is like how in the late 90s and early 2000s we landed on old 97s and shit like that, because they were probably experiencing the like mass popularity of like Garth Brooks and George Strait and shit like that. And so it's all cyclical,
Yeah.
At least that's what I'm told.
My guess is we're around the same age, right? And like when we were growing up, like, that punk pop influence was huge, right? It was everywhere. And I've talked to several people about this, where I think back now, and punk music, especially like from those early 2000s, 2004, 2005, 2006 time, if you slow it down and throw a acoustic guitar behind it, it's just country music.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of I mean the one that is sticking out right now, and this is earlier than those 2000s, but like the Lemonheads, you ever listen to them? Or like, some of these like pop rock bands.
Yeah,
Yeah, I totally know what you mean, where it's like if you strip them down, it's the old like cliche of like three chords and the truth, right? Like they're all
yeah,
just simple, um, you know, kind of, yeah, three chord country songs.
right. Yeah, I think you've even nailed it even harder than I've ever thought about. But like some of those alt rock '90s bands, it's the same thing. Like if and not even just lyrically, but their sound. If they were to come out today, they would be under this, country music umbrella that we seem to put every fucking thing under. But
Yeah.
you know, it is. You think about some of those songs by like the Verve Pipe or
Mm.
Dishwalla or some of those off skew bands, and like they're telling a story, and you didn't get a
Yeah.
lot of that.
Right. It's funny. There's like I can't remember which Gin Blossoms record, but they make like I think, intentionally they were like, we're gonna write a song that sounds like a country song sonically, and
Right.
just, it has like steel and stuff like that. And so they did that. And then Fountains of Wayne too, they have on that, I think it's the Interstate record, the song's called like Hung Up or something. And it's like with the same intention, it's like we'll make this sound like a country song, but really it's just another Fountains of Wayne song.
Right.
And it's like super effective and just sounds awesome.
Right. I mean, and Jarrett Reddick from Bowling for Soup even did it. He put out a country album and he threw some Bowling for
Oh,
Soup
really?
songs on it, and it's great.
Uh, I'll have to check that out. I'll make a note of that.
Yeah, dude, it's he does a version of I can never remember the way the song title is correctly, but like the Ohio back to Texas or whatever the fuck the song is, but like he puts a country feel to it, and it's like, and then you go back and listen to like the original, and it's like, holy shit, like that's,
Yeah.
and then like that's kind of like how I started to see it, where it was like, wow, these songs are country music. Like I was a big Something Corporate fan, and it's like I go back
Mm.
now as an adult, right, and like listen back to
Yeah.
some of those songs, and it's like, holy shit, like 18-year-old version of me thought, you know, these were just sad songs, and like 38-year-old version of me is like, wow, these are sad songs, but they were making a point, you know.
Yeah. 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 I think to your point, like people our age, or how old are you?
38.
Okay. Yeah. Um, People our age, it's always funny to me, like music can be really like gatekeepy.
Yeah, yeah,
And so it's funny to me when people are like, especially people our age, or maybe when we were younger and like starting to get into country music or whatever. And just like the thought that like anyone, when they're like, or the percentage of people who are listening to Waylon Jennings and the Birds and Graham Parsons when they're 18 or 16 is so few,
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think it's like you have this common kind of thing, right? Like where, yeah, like when I was a kid, I like loved Third Eye Blind, and I still love Third Eye Blind, and like the Killers or whatever, and a bunch of other emo bullshit.
yeah,
But then your buddy, when you're hammered, is like, hey, you should listen to this Town Van Zant song, and it's like the saddest goddamn song you've ever heard, and then you're like, oh, this
yeah,
is just what what I loved about these songs, but just like kind of in this different avenue that I guess for me personally was like, it felt like more relatable as I got older.
yeah.
Um,
you,
that
you know
makes
it's funny
sense.
because like when I was growing up, country music wasn't even a thought, like not even close. I didn't grow up in a house with country music. I didn't, like but it wasn't until I got older and started having, everything country music talks about, wives, kids, 9 to 5s, the whole 9 yards, where it was like, oh, okay, here's songs that are talking to me,
Yeah.
like I'm not an
Yeah.
angsty teenager anymore. So it's like, now this shit makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We also, we also came up in kind of like a weird transition period for country, like where mainstream or like radio country became or was starting to become something different. And so it was much easier to dismiss, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably like a very hindsight take, but yeah, like I definitely didn't have like country, but my mom was into like, she was really into Jimmy Buffett, which at the time I was like, this shit is so lame. And then I don't know, same thing. Like you get older and you listen to like more of the catalog and you're like, oh wow. And then I see, he passes away and all these like country music people that I love are like, Jimmy was a huge influence on me. And I'm like, what the hell? I thought this was just Margaritaville,
Right,
but,
right.
And then John Prine was the other big like family influence. Like there's always like guitars out at Christmas and come from a big like Irish family, so we're always up till God knows when, drinking and but yeah, I like the first John Prine song I heard was my Uncle Tim playing Illegal Smile, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. Just felt like it was like one of those things where I was like, this sounds like someone made this for me. Like this was made for me,
Yeah. Now, how old were you when that happened?
Probably like 18 or 19. And I was like, I had always had a guitar, but I would like knew a few simple songs and stuff, but never really like tried to make anything of it or write any songs or anything like that.
Now, what was the moment that was that one of the moments or the moment that was like, this is what I want to do? How do I get to do this?
Yeah. I think about that a lot because I think I like any like I don't know, I've never been a parent. And so I like really try to give my parents grace, and I was like always interested in music. Like I would say like more so than the average child or whatever. Like I wanted to play an instrument. I was like consumed it as much as I could. But I think like any parent, they're like, well, that's great. And you could maybe do that, but you have to like, prepare for life outside of that if that doesn't work out and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think up until like truly like very recently, it's I still don't really think of myself as like a musician or an artist. It's harder for me to do that. In part probably too because I had a whole like kind of life and career before we started Ladybird, but definitely like I think so in short, I think I always like wanted to do this. I don't think up until recently, or I still have to remind myself that it's like something that I'm doing,
Yeah.
And also it's something that I'm doing, but it's not paying the bills yet, and learning more about kind of just like how much work and the huge step that it is to get to that point as a musician, to where that is what you're doing full time. And yeah, I think the Prine song, like hearing that and then discovering that was the first time that I was like, oh, it made me look at music differently, because I think I always thought it was something like kind of inaccessible. Like artists or musicians were I like, put them on a pedestal, and I was like, I could never be that. But hearing the way that Prine wrote, I was like, it's like simple, and like a lot of his songs are like goofy, and I think that was like kind of my avenue in. I was like, oh, it doesn't need to be this kind of, dark, mysterious thing. Yeah.
It's it's funny to hear, not funny like haha, but like interesting to hear the way you talk about how you're in that transition of, well, I had this career and now I'm doing this and whatnot. Like, I think that's something that a lot of bands and artists don't, for whatever reason, talk about like openly enough, because there's so many of you guys out there that are doing that, that went from, having to work that, quote unquote 9 to 5 and all that shit to, realizing that you have a talent and there's a need and a want and a desire for it in that transition, and so for you, how has that been? Has it been easy? Has it been hard? Is it scary? Like, what is it?
Yeah. Good question. It's we we were just talking about this on the last tour we did, but I like music content is like the easiest thing for me to consume. Like, so I'm reading this book right now called Sellout. Have you read this book, Sellout?
No.
Okay, you would love it, especially because it sounds like it. Like just the music that we were talking about earlier from like the early 2000s. It covers a lot of these. It's just about like basically post Nirvana major label signings of these bands, and like Green Day and what was the last chapter I read was it was like the emo band Thursday, and I don't know. So but it's fascinating because you see as the chapters roll along just kind of like how music was changing. In the beginning, it's like Rhett Miller from the old 97s talks about like he just accepted this award and he was like, hey, if you can ever sign to a major label, do it in the 90s. Because it was like he tells the story about how it was literally they were like 24 and you walk into a major label office and it's like dudes in suits and like briefcases of money. And there was just so much money to go around in music. So I start there because I'm starting to, it's funny to learn about music history and how it's changed and kind of be like living that and experiencing that firsthand. It's like certainly like not a stretch to say that it's never been harder to be a musician, I think a lot of people there's just like this disconnect where I think people see probably even a band like ours, when we play a show out on the road, they might think, oh, these guys they're doing it, like,
Yeah.
And we are, but what they don't realize is that like we have to go home and like work as soon as we're done doing this,
Right.
So when we started it was like, and it's still awesome. It's still awesome. I don't want to like, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. I just think it's like, I don't think a lot of people understand like the reality of being a musician now. And I really have never had more respect for people who are doing this, because it's like, it's also almost impossible.
Yeah. It really is. It really is. And
Yeah.
I get a lot of pushback, sometimes from like PR teams and shit like that, where they don't want you guys, it's almost like they don't want you guys to talk about like the real struggle of this, which is to me insane, because it's not, especially with the way the internet is and all that, like, it just, I never understood why, teams don't want their artists or their bands or whatever to not come across like regular everyday people. It doesn't make sense to me. It just really doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your question earlier too, it's like we've always, I think, like what we do well as a band truly, like sure, I love the songs that we make, but I also think that like we are a very like authentic kind of like genuine band. Like these songs, there's no bullshit,
Right.
We're not talking about shit that we've never done. If you talk to us, it's exactly that. Like we're not, putting on a costume or anything. And yeah, it's if someone is like kind of, it's easy for us now to see too when someone is kind of like putting that on, and it's like either you are lying or you're like have a pretty sick trust fund, which, hey, I
Right.
wish I had a trust fund, like if you got it, go ahead, but be honest about it,
Right. Right.
um but yeah, yeah,
It's easy for, the regular everyday consumer to like sit back and be like, "Oh, this person is, went from nobody to somebody overnight." And it's like that's not the reality, even for the Aldines and the Luke Bryans and the Luke Combses of the world, like that wasn't the case, and then there's bands like yours and others that have to grind and grind and grind and to get to where you are. And to me, you know sitting here, right, it's easy for me to say that it's fun to watch, because it goes back to that gatekeeping, right, where like bands like yours and others that are great, you selfishly want to keep to yourself, right, but also want to see it explode too. So it's a very fine line
yeah,
too, as like as a quote unquote fan.
yeah. And it, like the other thing about like with this book Sellout, there was this kind of like culture back then of like, oh, if you take a major deal, you're selling out. And now it's like, I hope that people recognize, at least with what we do, and then actually to give other artists grace too. um Part of the reason that we like hustle so hard is like we love what we do, but we're hustling and we want to grow because we want this to be something sustainable. Like
Right.
I don't want to at a brewery part-time. I would love to just do music,
Right.
but like, yeah, like I said, the steps to get there are so huge. And you said grind, and like it is a grind. You have to. Um, the good thing is that you see bands who do it and who stick with it for like 10 years, and then you start to see, that pay off. But a lot of times a lot of bands don't make it 10 years because they get tired of financial insecurity,
Right.
or like life changes. And so, yeah, I mean, like if you can do something to make the music thing sustainable, like, yeah, go do it.
Yeah. Now, for where you guys are, right, has there ever been talk about you know taking the band to Nashville or taking the band to Texas or anything like that, or like how does it look like for you guys when it comes to that touring aspect in the Midwest?
Yeah, I mean, we've been down in Nashville. I mean, we've been a band for 4 years. I think we've been down there 4 times, and we had we've had a few good ones down there at this place that we love called D's Country Cocktail Lounge. If you've ever been there.
I haven't.
And that was, oh, dude, that it's a spot. You should check it out if you're ever down there. But yeah, I think the ideology of tour for us is like we just want to get in front of as many people as possible and hopefully like grow in those markets, you know. So for instance, like in July we went out to, we got as far as Raleigh, so that was, we went and we did like, you know, Columbus and Charleston, West Virginia, and Raleigh and Asheville, and then Nashville and home. And on, so 6 days, and on 3 of those days we had really good shows in places where they're like, hey, come back, we'll get you a better show next time, you know. And like if that happens, you know, 3 or more, or you know, half of the time, more than half of the time, that's like a successful tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nashville, I don't know what to think about Nashville. As far as I think maybe why you're asking is because it's like this is a you know, historically a huge market for
Right.
music and country music, right? So in my mind, it's like, yes, it'd be great to like grow them, you know, hopefully have people come out to shows next time we're back. Do I think, or what do I think the chances are of being like discovered or something, you know? And it's always in the back of my mind, you know, because you never know who's at a show.
Right.
And talking myself through this, it's like the chances are probably better in Nashville that someone comes to a show, they know someone. But I think also learning about just like, you know, labels now, or it's just so much harder to get onto a label, and really I think labels can do less now than they could even 5 to 10 years ago. And like, don't get me wrong, like I'd be down to try it, you know, like we need help with booking, like tours. We do all on our own, you know. We book the venues, we get supporting bands, and like it's gotten a little bit easier because we've been doing it for longer, but it's also sometimes you end up with some stinkers, you know.
Yeah.
And then I talk to some people who are like, dude, you end up with stinkers if you are on a booking agency, you know, like. So I don't know. I try to ask around. We've had the you know, the privilege of like meeting and being around some people who are like doing it at a more consistent rate than us, and I try to talk to them as much as possible, and just like truly just be like, hey, do you have any words of wisdom, or like what do you think? And it's funny to hear their stories and their experiences, because yeah, it's like just for instance, I'll tell you, like we were like thinking that like a manager or something would be able to help, and we talked to this guy, Carl Nichols. He plays in a band or a project called Buffalo Nichols. So if you haven't checked them out, you should. He's from Milwaukee, but I think he's down in Texas now. And but he was very candid, and he was like, hey, like managers don't want anything to do with you unless it's already working, and then they take your money, you know. So it's like, is it worth it to like start giving this person money for something that you built and you are already doing on your own? So it's just shit like that, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's it's a very I don't want to say scary, but it is. It's scary as, like I can't imagine, I've been approached several times about like even like this, right? And like having people help and do this and that. And it's like, you know, what I'm doing is nowhere near as, you know, thought consuming as writing a song, right? But it's your baby, right? You don't want to just give it to anybody. I wouldn't just give my kids to somebody to watch them, like I sure as hell I'm not
Yeah.
going to just give this to anybody to watch either.
Yeah. Yeah. I It's funny. We just put out this. I mean, the record came out like 3 weeks ago, and then Saturday night we had our release show.
Yeah.
Or show. We did 2 shows at Cactus Club here in Milwaukee, and so I'm still kind of like, riding a little high from that, and I mean, it takes up so much of your time, putting out a record, especially when you're doing it all DIY. So I think I think as the dust settles a little bit, I'll be able to kind of like start to think about what's next and stuff like that. And but right now it's like our leads are just keep grinding and doing it ourselves. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So what does the rest of the year look like for you and going into next year? I can't believe we're already talking about going into next year.
I know. Yeah, we have 2 more shows. We're gonna do a big one in December here in Milwaukee, and then down in Chicago too. Trying to get down to Chicago more, and then just like, yeah, trying to keep up with press stuff. Trying to, get the songs out to as many people who will listen, without having to get in the van and go play. So just keeping up with that. And then honestly, I mean, next week, I'm going to start looking at booking a tour for May. And I think what we'll do is try to hit some of those spots that I mentioned in July and go back and take those people up on their offer for a better show. Yeah, it's usually
Yeah.
like 6 months. 6 months out, I start thinking about booking, because like after COVID, I think it's like calendars really started filling up where people were trying to get out and play shows and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, and the time
yeah,
goes by fast, man.
I know. I
So,
think also we've all kind of committed to like taking a little breather in January, and just like, let's not play any shows. Let's just take some time to, relax. And yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So the new record's out. Show now.
Oh, sorry, you're kind of breaking up.
No, it's all right. It's all right. For some reason, this app likes to, when we get to like the 45-minute mark, likes to just like shit the bed on me. So that's a lot of fun. But can you hear me now?
Hold on, sorry, I don't know if it's mine or, let me try to do. All right, are you there?
Yeah.
I'm not getting your audio. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Can you hear me now? Do. Come on.
All right, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh.
Oh,
All right, what about now?
yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, sorry about
All right.
that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Well, I can, I don't know. I'll fuck around with it and find out.
All right.
But yeah. So what was I saying? Records out. Yada yada yada. Um, do you have stuff? Do you have enough stuff to put out something? I'm not rushing anything, right? But like, if you had to go into the studio tomorrow and put out another record, could you?
I could put out like a 4-song EP probably, but I really
Yeah.
don't. I think the other thing about like taking a break and like I really would like to take my time and make a good record rather than like kind of the culture in music right now is like if you're not putting out a single every month, you know, then you're
Yeah.
not putting out enough content, you know. And I
Right.
think that not to say that artists who are doing that aren't putting out good stuff, right? But like speaking personally, I think that that would really um, um, hinder the like artistic output because it's like these are still like songs shouldn't be this kind of machine output like
Right.
and I think yeah I don't know I think that it would damage perhaps the final product. So why do you ask?
No, I agree.
But hey, if you're paying for studio time, I'll be there. Is that why you're
Yeah, I wish I could pay for your studio time. I would do it in a heartbeat, man.
yeah.
I have a long list of people that I would throw in the studio if I
I'm,
if I
I'm, I'm sure. Yeah.
could do it. So have you guys ever been out this way north into the Northeast?
Yeah. Where are you based? I guess. Are you in New York?
Um, yeah, I'm in Massachusetts, right? I'm
Okay.
about 25 minutes north of Providence and about an hour south of Boston.
Okay. We've never been that far north. I think the farthest northeast we've been is New York City. Um, and we've been out there twice and had pretty good luck. Um, and I'd love to, you know, head north towards Boston too. And I've some guys in our band and in Milwaukee have spoken pretty highly of like some of the towns in like New York and upstate New York. I guess you know you can find some pretty good scenes up there of people who really want
Yeah.
to see music and so. But it's like tour is it's like it's so kind of like bittersweet. It's probably not the right word, but it's like it's so fun to go to new places, but then um, I was talking earlier, where it's like the goal is you got to go and then go again. So
Right.
I'd love to hit every town, in the country, but at least when you're our size, it's like you got to go and go again. Um, so I think for the near future, that's probably what we'll be trying to do. But it's
Yeah.
good to know that I got a friend in Providence, Boston area. If we're ever out that way, I'll have to hit you up and hopefully see if you got any recommendations.
Oh, we have plenty. We have plenty because
I'm
this area has a good following, right? It just needs to get here.
sure. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of, your sound is exactly what people are looking for and people are coming out for. They just they don't know where to find it,
sure. Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But yeah, so all right, man. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on and taking some time this morning and shooting the shit. And
Thank you.
unfortunately, I have to go to my quote unquote real job now. So
Yeah. All right. Well, keep fighting the good fight, man.
yeah, man. You too.
Thanks
It's
for
been a
having me.
pleasure. We'll chat soon. Feel free to reach out whenever, and we'll get some shit going.
Cool. All right. Thanks,
All right,
man. Take
Pete.
care.
See ya.
Yep.
Well, there you have it, everyone. Our conversation with Ladybird. Hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, we got some things coming up this week, hopefully. Oh, Turnpike is definite. Just hoping that the Treaty Oak stuff falls through properly. Anyway, stay tuned. We'll get all the shit figured out. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you next Monday for Clay Street Unit. Cheers.